welcome back.
My life doesn't really make sense. I used to ask myself a lot of questions about that. Scott, you're a divorced ex-con. How are you an Avenger? Why are you time traveling with Captain America? That doesn't make sense.
Okay, let's all go. Let's go.
Hello and welcome. Welcome and hello. This is Wait, You Haven't Seen? It's a show where we talk about movies, and specifically, we talk about a movie at least one of us has never seen before. I'm your host, Travis, aka TV's Travis. This is episode number 279. And the movie this week is 2023's Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And here to talk with me about it, the host of The Morning Stream and Film Sack, it's Scott. How the hell had he not seen this movie? Johnson. Scott, how are
it's such a long middle name. I'm doing great, and I'm excited to be here because this movie, in particular, is one that has been I've been told for months and months and months that this was garbage, to stay away from it. It was the worst MCU movie in a long time, and all those things. And so today, you're going to find out from a definitive source if any of that's true.
Yeah. Now, you say that, but like this was the only MCU movie I think that was nominated for a Razzie.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
I didn't realize that at first. So I did see this in theaters, and I came out of the theater enjoying it. I thought it was fun.
Mhm.
Like it wasn't the best movie that I had seen. It wasn't the best Marvel movie that I'd seen, but I had a good time with it. So now that you got a chance to sit down with all the things you had heard about it, what did you think?
I went okay. So a little background.
Sure.
I went in thinking this will probably be the worst I had seen up to this point, or I would be glad that I waited and got it at home. But I was excited for one thing, and that was, well, I get to fill in some blanks on some story stuff that they're going to carry through to other movies, or already have in some cases. And I wanted to kind of know where all that was. How would the TV shows play into it? And there is some of that stuff. What I got instead, I think there are two things at play here. One, I'm well outside of the anti-hype bubble that this movie had going around it. As before it even hit theaters, people were being sour about it.
Mhm.
And also, I'm far enough out of it where nobody else's opinions are really hovering around me right now, so I could just see this on its own merits
Sure.
and decide if I liked it or not. And I'm surprised how much I liked it. Like you, I'm not going to say this is the best MCU movie or the best superhero movie ever made. Certainly not. I liked this more than Multiverse of Madness. I liked this more than, I think overall, more than Black Widow. Some other comparative ones, certainly more than Iron Man 2 and 3.
Yeah. I can see that.
I'm sure this is nothing is, I'm sure I'm still sure the worst Marvel connected movie is probably still that Madam Web thing from all accounts. I still haven't seen that either. But this was all right. Like, they went and did stuff I didn't expect. Okay, so here's one misconception I had going in. I was told that the effects work in this was terrible.
Right.
And that I should expect to be just like let down the minute I walk in the room by all the effects work. And I had the opposite experience. I think this movie's hard to replicate because you're trying to create a world that is already super weird. The quantum world is weird.
Yeah.
And it's small and it's impossible to imagine. And so they have to do a lot of stuff and pull from a lot of the old comics and all these ideas to create this world. And they have to, of course, use a ton of CG to accomplish it.
Yeah.
And I thought, pulled it off. Like, I was shocked how much I liked what they did. I felt like I was playing No Man's Sky and found a really rad world to walk around in with strange plants and creatures. I felt like scanning everything, like I was having that kind of experience. And it was super like creative and innovative. And there were creature designs I didn't see coming and thought they were really well made. And I had the opposite experience of people with the effects. I did not have a problem with it. And most people said, "Wow, did you get to the MODOK part?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, but you got to make a big head,
right?"
Like, I don't know what else you're gonna do. It's you mocap a face and you make a CG head, and there's your head, and it's fine. It didn't bother me.
And I'm with you. I thought the movie looked really good. It's gonna be a harder sell always because it's sort of the feeling I had when I saw the first Thor, where
Mhm.
I enjoyed the first Thor, but of those early Phase 1 Marvel movies, that's the hardest sell to make because it
Right.
takes place on Earth and you got all that outlandish stuff. And that's what this has, right? The quantum realm is weird. I love weird, so I'm fine
Yeah.
with that. Like,
Yeah.
that's right in my wheelhouse to have things go weird. And they got to just play. And I did read something where one of the people that worked at an unnamed effects house said that part of why people didn't like the look of this was they shifted a bunch of the resources to Black Panther, and that's a lot
Mm.
of the resources were going at the time, and they had to rush some things. And okay, I can see that. Like, it's not perfect, but I thought it looked really good. And MODOK, in particular, looks ridiculous. But if you read the comics, if you've ever seen MODOK, MODOK looks ridiculous.
No, he's supposed to look ridiculous. If they made a mistake with MODOK, I mean, there's two ways of thinking about it. One is the origins here are totally different than what the comics are about.
Yeah.
But they do that a lot in these things, so that wouldn't bother me that much. The other complaint would be, well, you need to know about MODOK to get any of the MODOK stuff. Like, it's just going to seem really stupid, but you're going to miss the irony of it because we know it's stupid. Everybody knows MODOK is terrible. That's the whole fun part about MODOK, is that we all accept the fact that this is a bad villain written at a terrible time in comics, and it just is it's kind of a joke.
Yeah.
And in some ways, they pulled this off before with things like Guardians of the Galaxy did a great job of regular non-comic book people understanding that there is a raccoon that talks that is important to this story.
Yeah.
Or a tree that does things, that moves around and does stuff. Like, there are some concepts in Guardians that they did a really good job of making relatable to just regular people. This maybe was a stone's throw too far to have this world be as crazy as it is and have to deal with MODOK all in the same shot. And maybe that was just too much, because I could see why a mainstream non-comic book fanatic would see this and just go, why? What is with this big head guy? Why? And all the jokes around it depend on you knowing that MODOK is already a bad idea.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I was fine with it, because I know that about MODOK. I know that he's ridiculous and over the top and dumb. So to me, it was like, yeah, no, we're making fun of this. And so is this movie. But if I was a non-comic book reader, I would have probably, and first time seeing MODOK, I would have probably gone like, why is this even in here? What are we doing?
It's kind of, there's
You
like
know?
two ways you can go with something like that. You can go this route and just lean into the silliness of it, or like Arnim Zola in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Like,
Right.
you're not doing the comic version of Arnim Zola in that movie because it doesn't fit with what they're doing. You know, he's got the giant robot body with like the head in the middle of it. He's looking like Krang. Like, that doesn't work in Winter Soldier. That's not the world that they're. But this is already, like, we've got David Dastmalchian playing Veb, the little goo creature, which was great that he's in the movie because his.
I like that guy just sign up for whatever you give him. He's great.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. I don't care. DC, Marvel, freaking Blade Runner, Dune. It doesn't matter. Hire that guy, put him in your horror movie. He's a weirdo and we love him. And I'm always happy to see even though in this one you don't see him, but you get to hear him, which is kind of fun. So,
but like, they don't have any of that crew, because like the first two Ant-Man movies have that crew of ex-cons with Dastmalchian and Michael Pena's character and all of them. There's no room for them in this story, but it was kind of cool that Peyton Reed wanted to get Dastmalchian in the movie, so I was
down for it.
there.
But
you have
I
like
saw
that
the credits and I was like, who the hell is this guy? And I watched it. I'm like, I'm still not sure if I knew where he is in here. And then I looked it up and I went, oh, he's the little red guy with the holes.
Yeah. And like, you've got that character, you've got the flashlight head thing guy.
Yeah, he was awesome. I love that guy.
He was great. Like, all these weird, outlandish characters. So throwing MODOK in there, I just felt like, okay, it's the world we're in. It's going to be funny.
It's part and parcel. It's like the big giant building standing up and shooting shit. Like, that's not normal. That's weird.
But it did have
and it worked.
Lines. That line of that building is alive, and just Veb's response, yours are dead?
Yours are dead? Yeah, that was good. There were a couple of jokes that really hit for me. There were a couple that were pretty cheesy. I think their attempt to create catchphrases toward the end of the film, like a lot of these action-packed comic book movies do, I don't think they worked so well. They reminded me of the worst in the history of MCU, which was the first Avengers and Black Widow seeing a giant alien creature swing around the Empire State Building and saying, "I don't see how that's a party." I freaking hate that line. It's just too cloying and too lame. And this had a few of those in it, and that bummed me out. But for the most part, the humor hit for me. It was fine.
Yeah, and this was written by what's his name? Jeff Loveness, who I think worked on Rick and Morty some. So, and this was his first film script that got made.
This is that's interesting because this is sort of perfect. If you've written for Rick and Morty for some number of years, Rick and Morty deals with these kind of things all the time. Like, what's this gelatinous mess, and why is this wisecracking broccoli head? Like all that stuff feels like right at home for a dude like that.
Yeah.
The question is how much leeway did they give him? Marvel famous for, not letting people really stretch themselves in these movies. They kind of have some borders. So I would like to read earlier attempts at the script, because I'll bet there was some more, perhaps more humor. Maybe it may have been a little body. I don't know how blue they worked in those early scripts, but.
And I know one of the things I did read was Kang was a little bit jokier in early scripts, early versions of the script, and they trimmed that down and had him go in a different direction. And I want to talk about Kang in a bit because there's a lot there, but I'm glad they didn't have him be jokey, because it wouldn't have worked.
Wouldn't have worked at all. In fact, he was a highlight for me. He was very good. That character is great. And, aside from all the personal real life issues going on around the actor, his portrayal, I think, is genuinely good. Like there was a time when I heard, the next phase is going to be Kang the Conqueror. And I thought, well, that's not going to match up to like Thanos and all that. It's not as good, or there's no way it can be as good. And after seeing this, I became convinced, and also then saddened because it's not going to happen either way. But I was convinced that this was a good idea. Like he was genuinely menacing.
Yeah. And
doing stuff that was messing with my head in terms of like the characterization of some morality, some complete opposite of that.
Yeah.
Somehow all mushed up into the same guy. I thought was fantastic in this. And
I think
it bums me out for all the reasons that it's not happening going forward. That all bummed me out when it was over. I was like, oh man.
Oh, absolutely. Like I had a note where there's a specific moment that you feel like there's a lot of sadness almost from Kang, and I'm like, but there's also this rage and ambition and all of that. And I'm like, he's a lot in one package. There's a lot in that character. And Jonathan Majors, I have said this for a few years, he's incredibly compelling on screen. Just everything he's in, he's magnetic, and it's such a bummer for the off-screen stuff that's happened with him and his career, because there was a time not that long ago where I was like, just put him in everything. I want to see him and stuff. And I remember when I saw the Maltese Falcon for the first time, and I got into a discussion of, okay, let's talk about a remake of the Maltese Falcon for today. I thought he would make a great modern day Sam Spade, because he's just got that like it factor. There's something about him on
there's an energy, like an on-screen thing that is really, it's hard to put your finger on, which is usually what makes somebody a star, or that's star making magic.
Oh, yeah.
And I was talking on TMS about this briefly, but he reminds me a lot when he's doing a role like this in particular. But I get Tom Hardy vibes off him.
Yeah.
And they both have a very similar sort of swagger and take when it comes to roles like this, especially morally ambiguous roles where there are parts of him you kind of feel for, and parts of him you're like, nah, you're the worst. And it really works for me. It's one of my favorite kinds of, acting to watch, and to know that, that's all at the very least on the back burner, if not gone altogether, is really a bummer. I hate it.
It is, because it's a swagger, and like I call it a weight. There's like a weight to his presence in a movie. Tom Hardy had that when Tom Hardy was playing Bane in Dark Knight Rises. They always call the villain in a film the Heavy. And I really felt that from like a physical standpoint. The way he moved felt very heavy, and you could tell when he would hit somebody, it just felt like a brick of concrete hitting you. And that's what I get from like Majors in this. Like Kang has that weight to him, and then to remove the jokiness from him and make him very somber uh, is a perfect other side of the coin to Scott Lang and everyone else that's going on. Like it just
Yeah.
fits. And he had some
I agree.
killer lines in there too, just killer stuff. Like Janet saying to him about killing trillions of people and erasing all these timelines, and his response to that is like, "I wish any of that mattered."
Yeah,
And it's like,
he's just, his perspective has just wrecked him.
yeah,
Like it's made him, it's made him feel like life is so redundant and it doesn't really matter. You can go on whatever timeline you want, wipe out people. There's still infinite timelines with those same people.
yeah,
Like that kind of moral ambiguity is really interesting to explore. And this is also some of my favorite stuff to explore in comics. And they did a pretty good job of making me think about that stuff. There's also one aspect of this that I cannot stop thinking about. And I think it's probably what made me like it more than I thought I was going to like it.
okay,
That is, when I was a kid, and even today, but as a kid especially, I was so into anything that was about tiny, tiny micro worlds we couldn't see.
yeah.
So whether it was movies like, I mentioned this morning Inner Space.
Yep.
Inner Space got me thinking about this. It's a pretty cheesy kind of cornball thing now, but at the time I was like, yeah, dude. Or what's the Fantastic Journey, or what's it called?
Is it Fantastic Voyage?
Voyage. I think it's Voyage.
Yeah.
Or anything where it's like, we're going to shrink it down to nothing. Like one of my favorite Futurama episodes, they do this. They go inside a Fry's body
Mm-hmm.
because he ate a bad sandwich at a gas station, and now there's a whole race of like bacteria that have grown up to be a super smart race, and they're going to destroy him. It's an amazing episode, but mainly it's because I'm drawn in so much by like what that means. And if you could shrink your down to be the size of, say, a tardigrade or something,
Mm-hmm.
the way the world would be for you would be alien. It would be nothing like what we experience up here.
Yeah.
And this movie really embraces that and plays with that in a way that really made my imagination hop. So I think there's some bias there on my part where those themes are going to get more attention from me, even if your movie's kind of bad.
Mm-hmm.
I just love exploring it and would love to see more of that kind of thing. I mean, Ant-Man lends himself to that. If you think about it too much, though, there's some problems. Like, I mean, obviously you can't do it. They kind of have explanations for how they can get their physiology to scale the way they do and all that. That's not my problem. My problem is, for example, when he's trying to smash the dome and he's also fighting off those little fighters,
Mm-hmm.
and he's large, just go larger. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this isn't 20 stories isn't enough. That's fine. I'll go Galactus size. Oh, that's not big enough. Let's go another 5, 12, 100 kilometers up. Like, just keep doing it. You're not limited. There's no hard walls. And unfortunately, you paint yourself into a narrative corner and your fights become kind of dumb and redundant because all you need to do is just get bigger or smaller or whatever. Right.
Yeah, and I know when it's normal world, the rules kind of are like it uses more energy for him to get big like that.
Yeah.
And so all I can think of is they're just trying to scale that to like, well, he's been in this world, he's like adjusted to it. So if he goes too big, I don't know. But you're right. Like that is definitely a thing. You can just get bigger and take care
Yeah.
of things. And like,
So every time that happened, I just kind of go, okay, well, that's fine because this is a movie and they have to tell a story and it's okay. But I think this is actually good because it tweaks that part of my brain that wants to explore these ideas.
Mhm.
Even if the movie can't quite give me full exploration, inside my head, I can come up with all kinds of scenarios and all kinds of ideas about how does this work and what would that be like? And is gravity even remotely the same, or is it relative the whole time? Like, is there a point where gravity is no longer relative? And, these kinds of like overarching science questions
Mhm.
work really well for me when it's presented this way. And so even though it's for fun and adventure and all that stuff, my brain goes places. I'm like, dude, just the idea of being that small and not even that small, just even like, as big as a red blood cell or something like,
yeah.
forget about Quantum Realm where you're infinitely small. Like there's just something about that, and they could have gone on for another hour with just that backdrop. It wouldn't have helped their movie, but I would have enjoyed it. I would have
Sure.
liked it.
I just like I would have really loved, and this movie did make me want the stories of like maybe just in a tie-in comic or something. Janet for 30 years in the quantum realm and everything
Mhm.
that's going on because we touch on it a little bit and like, but it's the
Yeah.
hand wavy exposition of like, well, we tried everything to get this to work, and then she's a freedom fighter for whatever. But like, I want to know all that because all Hank knew of the quantum realm was like just this barren nothingness, and then he gets
Yeah.
there and it's not that at all.
It's
And
not that at all. Yeah.
Janet was there for 30 years. So
Yeah.
like, where did all this stuff come from? How much of it already existed, and kind of
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff. Like even something simple like Bill Murray's cameo as Kryler
Oh yeah.
and his character. Like, first of all, great cameo.
Yeah, it's great. He did good, I thought.
Because he's that perfect mix of like smarmy Bill Murray, but also
Yeah.
has a little moment of seriousness. I love that moment of like your mom is your mom isn't who she says she is or whatever, and
Yeah.
Hope being like, you're lying. He goes, well, yeah, I lie a lot.
Yeah,
Which
but
is
not
not
about
about
this.
this.
No.
It's real good.
Yeah, I liked him a lot. I usually don't like Bill Murray cameos because they tend to just cameos. Like I like him in all kinds of things, but
Mhm.
cameos bug me because I feel like they're just stunt casting and he's okay. But there's a few examples that work really well. I think this and the zombie movie. Can't think of the name of it.
Zombieland.
Zombieland.
Yeah.
Knew I had zombie in the name. That was an amazing small role. This is the same. It's very good, and he's not just phoning it in. And I felt real menace when the table sort of turned, and
Mhm.
it was clear that he was now in league. Used to be a rebel, and now in league with Kang, and it helps solidify this idea that Kang had really put his roots in while she was gone.
Yeah.
They don't really get specific about how time changes or gets tweaked or whatever, because on the one hand, she's there for 30 years, but she's barely gone from their lives. Well, I guess it wasn't barely, but it was relatively short amount of time. And that's 30 years for her. But then when they get out, like it didn't seem like much change. Time didn't change. Like when they
No,
all got out at the end, they were just sort of there. And he alluded to it. He's like, well, what's happened? We've been here 10 minutes, but has that been 10 years? They never really
yeah.
decided to lock that down.
It's
How
the
it
same
works.
thing they did with Endgame, like Scott being gone for 5 years in the blip, but he
Yeah.
felt like he was gone for half an hour.
Right.
So
Yeah. Similar thing, I guess. So, yeah, I mean, the idea that time would change at that quantum level is not it. That's based on theory. That's a real,
yeah.
there's real thoughts on that. But I thought they kind of hand waved it a little.
Yeah. No,
Um,
there was quite a bit of hand waving. I mean, there's a great moment when they first land in the quantum realm and Hope goes up to Hank and she's like, "Are you okay?" And his response is like, "We should be dead. But why aren't we?"
yeah,
I don't know. And then that's all the explanation you get. I don't know from Hank, and on we go.
that's true. They never took that any further than that, did they?
Nope.
We should
That
be
was all.
dead. I expected an answer. That's a chick in a bucket right there. If you listen to Film Sack, that's the
Yeah.
thing where they say they're going to tell me, and then they don't tell me. They don't even hint at it.
There's a
It's
bit
kind of a
of that.
bummer. Yeah.
Like there's also moments like Janet keeps saying, keep your voice down, and then nobody keeps their voice down, including her for the rest of the scene, or keep your head down, and then
Mhm.
they're making a big scene, like all this kind of stuff. But it at the end of the day, none of that really bothered me because it didn't matter. It didn't
Mhm.
matter that they did survive. What mattered was they were there, and that was the story we were going to tell. Because obviously things can survive there. We know that
Right.
now. There's
Right.
people and all all sorts of stuff. I did love the Han Solo Lando moment with Janet when they meet the guy
Oh, right.
to get the
Yeah, that was
transport.
good.
And
That was
like
pretty good.
there were definitely a lot of, oh yeah, no, this moment's happened in something else or something similar to it.
Mhm.
The rehydrating the pizza moment from
Oh,
Back to
yeah,
the
that was
Future.
great. I like that.
And apparently Peyton Reed, the director, got his start doing behind the scenes stuff, and he did the behind the scenes for Back to the Future 2 and 3. So he slipped
Oh.
in that pizza thing as like an homage to those movies,
Oh, I had no idea.
which
I
I
mean, I
thought
knew
was
Peyton
cool.
Reed had some, he's got some stuff behind him. He's worked
Mhm.
on a lot of cool things, but yeah, I had no idea. This is one of the few directors I don't know about a few. Maybe there's more than I think, but it seems like he's one of the most consistent in the MCU for taking one of the properties, in this case Ant-Man, and just seeing it all the way through.
Yeah, I mean,
I
as far as Marvel movies, like trilogies go, he's the only one. Him and John Watts are the only ones that have done all 3 films in their trilogy.
Yeah, I think that's right. Although, hold on.
Because
Oh, I guess James Gunn and Guardians is all 3. Him
oh
as well,
yeah,
but yeah.
that would be now. Yeah, I think
At
that
the
might have
time, though,
been.
you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at the time this came out, he was only the second one.
Yeah, and you didn't even. I mean, you've got the Russo brothers, but they were kind of spread out.
Mhm.
They had essentially a 4-hour movie, which was
Yeah,
Endgame and Infinity War. But if you count everything else they did, they weren't quite that consistent. So yeah, I guess you got to give them credit, especially for one that was kind of hotly contested and debated. Everybody wanted what's his beak from Shaun of the Dead to direct it.
yeah.
And he was in, then he was out, and he's like, they stifled my creativity. I think making stuff for Disney / Marvel these days must be a pain in the bum.
It's gotta be because you want to you hire directors like if you hire an Edgar Wright or Chloe Zhao or whomever because you like their style, you like their voice as a filmmaker, but then it's also got to fit into what you're making. That's I think why the Russo brothers work so well doing Civil War and Endgame and Infinity War is they have a style and a voice, but they're
Mhm,
not. They come from a TV background. That's
mhm.
kind of where they got their start, as opposed
Yeah.
to being somebody who got their start came up in film and did a bunch
Mhm.
of films and then moves on to this. Because
Yeah.
really, the MCU is much more structured like television.
No, that's
Uh,
true. It really is. Like, if you think about it, the TV shows the Marvel TV shows are really just a series of short films,
mhm.
and the movies themselves come off like long form television, just one you have to wait every 6 to 8 months or a year for.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that before. That's a really good point.
Yeah, so, your first season of Marvel is what ends with Endgame, and it's 10 years worth of 20 movies or whatever, so each one is an episode. So
Mm,
it's a different way to look at it, and I think that's why you get actor or directors like, Kenneth Branagh does the first Thor, but he doesn't
yeah.
come back for more of them.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, and that's true of a lot of those. Like, well, I guess Iron Man 1 had Favreau twice,
yep,
or I had Iron Man 1 and 2, and then who else?
but then there's Shane Black for 3.
Oh, I guess you got
Um,
2 out of Thor. You got Ragnarok and Love and Thunder out of Taika Waititi.
yep, although probably won't get another Thor from him
Probably
either.
not another one. Seems like, boy, what a bummer. I mean, I haven't seen Love and Thunder yet. That might be a future episode of the show. I saw. I mean, I hold Ragnarok as in the highest of esteems. I love that movie,
So,
and don't know what happened there.
what I'll say for you before you watch Ragnarok is
Mm. Love and Thunder, you mean?
or before you watch Love and Thunder is just look at Love and Thunder for what it is and try not
Mm-hmm.
to compare it to Ragnarok because
Mm.
it's sort of I know you and I agree on a lot when we talk about movies, but one we disagree on is Ghostbusters 2. You do not like that movie.
I hate that. I don't just not like it. I freaking hate that
And
movie with
and
a
my
fire passion.
my thing with Ghostbusters 2, it's not as good as Ghostbusters. It just isn't.
Mm.
That's an
Mm.
impossible task. But in a vacuum, I don't think it's a bad movie. It's just never going to be what Ghostbusters was.
Yeah.
And my thoughts on Love and Thunder are similar. I enjoyed Love and Thunder quite a bit. I did not like it as much as Ragnarok, but
Yeah.
on its own, and if it had been released first, I think more people would have really enjoyed it, is my theory. Now, it's virtually
Well,
impossible to
that's
know or not because
right, but that's a fair thing, and I'm glad you brought it up because Ant-Man and the Wasp, I think, they're in the same problem boat.
Mhm.
It's not so much that this is bad; it's that these are all coming out when everyone's complaining that we're fatigued, that it's too
Yep.
much, that change it up, or enough of this multi-timeline crap, or whatever whatever our complaints are. Too much of a good thing, oversaturation, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
I think this is a victim of that, and maybe the most Well, maybe not the most recent because I guess Marvel's came after this, right? I think.
Marvels did
And
come
that got
after this one, yeah.
and that got all kinds of heat too. I'll probably see that and like it because they're all fine. It's not that like if these were movies that came out if Quantumania came out 20 years ago or 15, we'll say, doesn't matter. It'd be a huge monster hit.
Oh yeah.
Like
Oh,
it would be
absolutely.
blowing people's minds. It's just we have hit a saturation point. I totally get that. But if you approach these, especially from a streaming standpoint, where you're just like, yeah, I just want to catch up on what's going on with these stories. How are they connected? Don't go in going, I better be blown away like Iron Man 1 or Winter Soldier or something like that, or else forget it, I'm out. Like that attitude will get you nowhere.
Yeah. You can't
And
recapture that. You
no, I don't know
just can't.
how you'd even expect it. I'm just glad I'm glad they exist. I'm glad I can see them when I want to see them. I'm 100% sure that this is better than people think it is.
Mhm.
Partly because I thought it wasn't, and it was good. I enjoyed it. It was a good time.
Well, and
You know?
expectations play such a huge part in whether or not we like a movie. I know, like for me, the one that I will bring up a lot is the first time I saw Event Horizon. I saw that in the
Yeah.
theater, and I did
Oh
not like
man.
it at all. But I
Yeah.
didn't like it because my expectations going into it were for something completely different from what I got. And when I
Oh,
watched it a couple of years later and got a chance to actually like, okay, let me just sit down and watch this movie again. I loved it. It's
yeah.
fantastic, and it's one that I will champion to this day. Like if you like space horror, watch Event Horizon because it's great.
I love Event Horizon, but I think I may have had a similar experience in the theater. I think I may have been, what was it, 97, 98, something like
Yeah.
that?
Yep. And the
I remember
marketing
maybe
for it was all the sci-fi aspects, and they didn't
none of the horror. Yeah.
none of the horror at all. And
Which
so
is a real screw up because it's best as a horror movie.
Mhm.
And I wanted more. Space horror as a genre starts with that movie for me. Like some people point to Alien and other things, and they're great. There's nothing wrong with any of that stuff. I love Alien. But for me, the idea of space is scary really started with that
yeah.
thing. Oh, I love it still to this
And
day.
I think too, like with a movie like Quantumania, you sort of
Yeah.
touched on it with the saturation thing is sequels and continuing stories. And I mean, it happens with comic books, and these are all based on comic books. Like this feels like kind of a standalone comic in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. And
Yeah. Like a single issue
yeah,
comic, sort of.
it's where we've gotten with the movies where they are interconnected, but they're also their own thing. And it's hard to continue stories and continue and keep that momentum in a film. Like
Yeah.
think about some of the greatest sequels of all time that people talk about when they talk about sequels like Terminator 2 or Aliens or whatever. Those are different movies. Like Alien to Aliens are two very different types of movies, which is what makes that sequel work
Yeah.
because they didn't just try to do the same thing. That's hard to do. And this was a case where I think they didn't want to just make another heist movie because that's
Yeah.
basically what the first Ant-Man is, and even kind of the second one. Um, they didn't do that, and it just hit at a time where it just didn't land, and
Yeah.
it's kind of unfortunate. But I do think this
Yeah.
is one that people will look back on much more fondly in years to come. I think.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I think people who even saw it and didn't like it, I think might return to it and go, "Oh, this isn't as bad as I thought." They're not going to walk away going, "This was robbed at the Oscars" or anything.
No,
But like my expectations were exceeded, and I know I lowered them pretty low, but I still can recognize when something is better than garbage, and this is
sure.
a lot better than garbage.
Oh yeah. Oh,
So
it really is.
I'd put it. I don't know where it fits in my total list. I'd have to think about that, but of MCU films, but you know, could have been a lot worse. And the biggest surprise for me is how well they realized this strange idea of this world that we can't see.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
and just
that was
leaned
new
into it.
and fresh, and it felt innovative and different. And I think we're always begging for that in movies, and they gave us that part of it. Other things are very formulaic, but the world they built, which is where that's my bread and butter in movies. I want world building.
Yeah.
It's strong. It's really good. I wouldn't mind them going back there for something. I don't know what, but
Yeah, it's hard to say what you'd go back there for, but I wouldn't mind it either. It's just one of those things where like Guardians of the Galaxy was what gave us the cosmic stuff, and that's all really weird. And James Gunn's just good at at weird.
Yeah, the cosmic universe was really safe in his hands. It's very hard to do.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah,
I
and
don't think people understand like why I'm so excited about Superman and his take on that universe and all those characters is that very reason. He understands how to take the weird bits of superheroes, in the case of Guardians, like the very weird parts,
Mhm.
and make it relatable and emotional and meaningful and human, even though you couldn't be more alien about it.
yeah.
Like he's a kind of a master at that, and there's a reason they hired him over there to do what he's doing at DC. I'm super stoked to see how the experiment goes.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are going to be surprised hopefully how good that stuff is. Can't
And
wait.
that might be, if this movie, the failings of this movie would be in the emotional stakes, because they don't make it huge emotional stakes, but there's that family stuff there. There's a lot of like father-daughter and mother-daughter stuff, but it doesn't carry the same weight that, say, the emotional things did in the Guardians movies, for instance. The
Right.
family that built. Um I don't know if part of it was changing actors for Cassie, or the fact that Cassie has been, she was a 6-year-old child to sort of a teenager, but not really
Yeah.
involved much, and now she's
Like
here.
just a full blown woman at this point.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, she's different in each movie, right? We got Catherine
yes.
Newton in this one. She's a very talented actress, but she's fine, I guess. Let's see. Who was the last one?
Her name was
That would have been Man of the Wasp, which I still haven't seen, but I know
Emma Furman.
that's right.
Played her
She
as
was
a
great.
teen.
I forgot Walton Goggins was in the second one. I haven't seen it, but I'd forgotten he got cast in that.
It's fun. It's definitely
Is
worth
it
watching. Yeah.
worth
And
worth seeing? Okay.
I think so. Like, it's one of those where um you don't need to watch it in order to get what was going on in this movie, which is nice. Like, yes, you didn't see them get Janet out of the quantum realm, but you had enough context clues in here to like kind of know what was going on. So I don't think you didn't feel too like lost or anything, did you?
No, that you had told me this too, because you had said, "Hey," I'd said, "Hey, I haven't seen the second one. Is that a problem?" And you were like, "I don't think you need to, just to get where we need to go with this." And you were right; it didn't at all. And I think that's good. It's both good and bad. It means they are a little bit. It's like video games. They'll have a sequel to a big game, and you go into it going, "Well, I know the basics of this. Like I
Hmm.
played the other one all the way through. What are you trying to teach me here?" And they have to do that thing where they give you some additional tutorial, even though
Yep.
it's stuff you've already done, because they just can't assume that everyone coming to it is also someone who played the first game.
Yeah.
I think movies are a lot like that too, especially big budget giant theater experiences, and they had to make that work, and they did. It was fine.
Oh yeah, I mean, filmmaking 101 is assume your audience doesn't know anything. And
Yeah.
that's why when you have a shot of like a heat register or an air conditioning vent, there'll be
Hmm.
ribbons tied onto it that are fluttering, because you can't
Yeah.
assume they know air is coming through there. You've got to actually show the motion of the air, like that kind of
Yeah.
thing. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I do think this movie did a nice balance of like, yeah, we're going to hold your hand a little bit and give you some exposition, but it never felt too much to me. Um
No, I could fill in the blanks. Plus, I kind of knew it was weird because if I had a moment of like, wait, maybe I have seen two, and then I realized, well, no, you've seen something. Maybe it was Endgame,
mhm.
wherever it was that we see Janet get sucked in to the quantum realm. I've seen that somewhere,
That
and I don't
happened in the
remember
first
when it
movie.
happened.
In the
Was it
first
the first
Ant-Man,
movie?
it was like
Okay.
a flashback to Hank talking about what was going on and when he loses Janet.
Okay, so that must be it, because when she's there in the 30 years, I went, well, yeah, I knew this. How did I know this? And then I
Mhm.
realized, I guess that wasn't part of the second movie. It was somewhere else. I guess it was the first. But there was also a stinger in something that involved
Uh,
that
one of
s-
the
end game or
I think
something.
it's in Infinity War, maybe, where they're at the
Mm.
van. It's whatever, or one of them where Scott ends up getting sucked into the quantum realm at the end, but Janet's there,
Oh, right.
I think.
And
Uh,
he's in the van, which is where we get him back from
Yep.
in Endgame, right?
Mm. I think it was a stinger. It might have been a stinger in maybe Captain Marvel or something.
Oh, maybe.
They
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
linked them
Now that you
together.
say that, I've seen that recently, and that actually fits.
So
So whatever. So this is the problem Marvel has right now. They've decided to weave these so intermingled that they've almost made it kind of homework, a little bit.
a little bit, and it is like comic books in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like what's nice is when the movie works is when you can pick up the movie, watch it like this one, and enjoy what's going on, and you don't have to have done all of the homework to watch this movie. Now, if you have seen everything or seen a lot of the stuff, there's extra that you're going to pull from it. There's more Easter eggs or references that you'll get, but you don't need it for everything. Um,
Right.
and that it's the same way with comics. Like I can remember even as a kid reading some of these and like going back and reading them later and catching more stuff that I'd never noticed before because I hadn't read, I was only reading X-Men and I didn't read any Avengers stuff or whatever it was at the time.
Right.
Because it's always hard when you have these interconnected universes. There's just so much, and you get
Yeah. There's
multiple
a ton.
people. I mean, I still haven't watched Loki season 2, for instance. So,
Yeah, and there's a reference at the end of this to that, I think.
Mhm. Which I had
So
seen because I saw this
yeah,
in the theater, which was before season 2 dropped. So I knew that that reference was there, but like
yeah,
I don't fully get it.
yeah. I didn't either, but I don't know. I really liked Loki season 1. I haven't seen season 2 yet either, but I really liked it, and
Mhm.
that to me is good connective tissue. The earlier stinger though, because there's always like 2 now.
Yeah.
The earlier stinger where all the different Kangs are all getting together for a Kang meeting.
Yep.
That was kind of annoying. That wasn't great. It was okay,
It
but
was
it was
that.
just like it was a little goofy and strange looking. I didn't like it.
I mean, it is, but Kang is such a weird character because of all the variants
Yeah.
and all the different versions of him. And I mean, even in the comics, it was all like characters that were introduced and then retconned to be Kang later. It's like Skrulls. Like
Yeah.
Kang and Skrulls are like that, right? Like, oh, something doesn't make any sense. Well, it was a Skrull.
Yeah.
We'll explain that away. It was a Skrull, and there you go.
Yeah, or Pym particles, or
Yeah,
whatever. There's a lot of these MacGuffins in Marvel that they rely on quite a bit, and this one, of course, relied a ton on Pym particles to save the day. But
yeah.
uh,
Which is funny because at
should've-
one point weren't there like a scarce number of Pym particles, but here they're just kind of
oh
freely
yeah, here
usable.
we got them. We got pockets full in this
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah. So
Jeez.
nice plot convenience, right? This is whatever the
Yeah,
plot demands. That's what the Pym particles can do and will do.
yeah, and that's fine. Again, I'm not going into this thing for like scientific accuracy,
No,
but I
no,
do I do like it when a movie at least makes me feel like they've thought of everything. You know what I
or
mean?
or at least follow their rules. Like the movie
Yeah.
sets its rules and then follows them. Because I know that's your problem with haunted house movies is
Hell yeah, dude. I hate that so bad.
when they set a rule and then break it.
Yeah, no, if you're Mike Flanagan, somehow you pull it off and he make that work. His haunted house stuff is awesome, but it's because he sets rules and lives by them.
Yeah,
The ones that don't, where it's just like, ooh, there's something in the room. 1 minute it's hiding and scary, and then one another minute it's just gone. But then it can move stuff, but it can't touch the people, but it can move on. Like, come on, man,
yeah,
freaking pick a plane and live on it.
yep.
None of this. I hate that. Oh,
That
drives
was
me crazy.
that was my problem with. Did you ever see the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Didn't we do that for this? Did we do that for this show?
No, we talked about
Oh,
Wanted.
we did Wanted.
Yeah,
That's right. I did. So I can't remember why I watched it, but maybe it was just for film sack.
could
I
have
can't
been.
remember. I always mix those two up for some reason.
But the thing with
Anyway, I did see it, and that movie is a weird one. That's a
it,
weird movie.
it's a weird. Like I feel bad for Stephen Norrington because it was just he wasn't the director to do that movie. He's a great,
Yeah,
I think, visual director because his Blade, like the first Blade, is amazing.
yeah, I
But
love Blade.
I don't think he was prepared for like this big studio thing and all the studio interference that you get. But that was a movie that had this that fell victim to that problem where it had inconsistencies in its rules and then some of the character stuff too. Um,
Right.
it's one of those that I wanted. That was a movie where the expectations were I really wanted that movie to be good, and then I watched it and I was so let down. But
Yeah.
then there's parts of it that I just love. Like it's so weird. It's such
Yeah,
an
that movie's weird. There are cool things about it. There's some stuff that really works.
Mhm.
But in my head, I always just go, "Oh yeah, the one that Sean Connery decided he's out."
Yeah, when
The final film you make is like, my gosh, man.
it's like that cloud will forever hang over that movie, just like it
Yeah.
will forever hang over Welcome to Mooseport because it made Gene
Yeah.
Hackman retire.
I always think of that one too. 2004's freaking Welcome to Mooseport. What a garbage monkey movie that was.
Ugh.
That was so bad.
And it's terrible because like Hackman, neither Connery or Hackman were too old to keep acting. They
No,
just
they could have done one more. What you do is you go for one more prestige project
Yeah.
and then you get out.
Mhm.
You don't end it on this. Now you can't, like, if you're somebody like Raul Julia, you can't help it. You're in Street Fighter and then you die. You didn't plan on it.
Right.
He had lots of other work probably ahead of him before he passed away suddenly. But in the case of these other dudes, well, I mean, Connery's dead, but Hackman's still with us. He could have done at least another year. I mean, I'm not telling people how to live their lives, but
Sure.
what a bummer to go out on crap movies like that.
Yeah, I know. You wish you could go out on top. I mean, and at least for Raul Julia, while the movie he was in was garbage, it's not good. He's so good in it. Like he
He
just
hams that stuff up in all the right ways. He's fantastic in it.
and
Like
I
I
love
can't even you can recast everyone in Street Fighter
Mhm.
except him. You keep
Right.
him.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It's like Jeremy Irons in the Dungeons and Dragons movie from 2000. Like
Yeah.
that whole
Yeah.
movie's awful. Just keep him and then the Tom Baker cameo, and that's it.
Yeah. That's a good call. I like that.
Um, so I did capture a little bit of audio from this movie because there's some just funny moments in this, but this one in particular I wanted to get because it has a cool little story behind it.
All right.
So we get the movie bookended by Scott in a voiceover,
Mhm.
and they're very
Doing the
different.
Welcome Back Cotter
Yeah.
soundtrack. Yeah.
Yep.
So weird.
And they're both really funny in different ways. But I love this moment.
A lot has changed about my life, but everywhere I go, people ask me the same thing.
Can you take a picture with my dog?
Which is great
Yeah,
for
that's
two
pretty
reasons. Number one, apparently a lot of people actually ask Paul Rudd, will you take a picture with my dog?
good. Oh, really?
Which I thought was funny. But also that guy that asks him that in the movie is Mark Oliver Everett, who was in the band Eels.
Oh.
He is also the son of Hugh Everett III, which is a physicist who essentially created the multiverse theory by connecting
Oh
it to
my
quantum
gosh.
mechanics.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding. That's crazy.
So, like, that's kind of a cool Easter egg to find out, like, oh, that's who that is. And I've heard Eels. I know of the band. Wouldn't have been able to pick Mark Everett out of a lineup at all. But when I was reading about it, I was like, that's cool. So
I'm not even sure if I've heard Eels. I'll have to check them out.
yeah,
But that's interesting. I like that kind of crap, like hearing James Gunn hired what's his name's son, the original Superman, can't think of his name. Christopher Reeve's son. Yeah, put him in there, some cameo or something is just awesome. I can't wait to see what they did with him.
I love that
kind of stuff.
Yeah. I love all of the characters in the quantum realm, but the telepath cracked me up. His intro and that whole scene. And
no, everything about him was great, dude. I love that guy.
He's the most realistic telepath I think I've ever seen because he just hates the fact that he's a telepath. Can't stand it. It's such a burden for him.
Yeah, and he was just funny. He also had a great couple of moments of like, what was the one where was he reading Kang's mind? And he was like, I can't remember that scene, but it was just he was great.
He was great, and I just liked when Scott asks him if he's like, wait, you can read minds?
Yeah, and I really wish I couldn't. Everyone is disgusting.
That is great.
Oh, because I don't want a telepath around me. That would be terrible. They would not like it at all.
It's also funny. It's funny to give the guy like a throbbing head for a telepath ability.
Yes, absolutely.
That made me laugh.
There were some really funny lines in this. Where was everything with MODOK when he's not, because he's ridiculous and he's trying to be serious and it's really funny, but then like when he sees Scott super big, like the 20-story version of or whatever, and he's just,
holy shit, that's big.
It's such a good delivery. There were so many of those.
Corey, what's his name?
Corey
Stoll. I like that guy a lot.
Plus, it was kind of cool to bring him back because the way Yellow Jacket goes out in the first Ant-Man movie, it actually fits narratively into what they did here because of the way his body like crushed down, but his head didn't as much.
Yeah.
So then you had that, and the whole scene where he's laying there, and then you just see him as he gets pulled out of that pool, and you got a little MODOK butt.
That was so weird, dude. But I appreciated that stuff. I was like, yeah, this is dumb, and he's dumb, so be dumb about it. I just know there were people that were just like, what even is this thing? Quit showing it.
Oh yeah,
I'm done with whatever this big-headed guy is. This is a dumb idea. I can't believe they let this through. And I'm going, well, no, it's freaking MODOK, man.
Right?
This isn't, what do you? Yeah, I think that's a hard sell though. So this was a risk for them to do.
No,
obviously.
it totally was.
Yeah.
But then he has a moment like his exchange with Cassie when she beats him down.
Yeah.
And then she just they have this.
It's too late. Look at me. I'm such a dick.
He's just a broken, pathetic. He realizes it. He realizes how ridiculous he is, and I loved it. It cracked me.
Yeah. He's great. If you've never seen where is it? He is in what was that thing that people didn't like it overall, but I liked it. The Many Saints of Newark, the Sopranos standalone movie thing.
I didn't watch that.
I loved him in that. He played Junior Soprano when he was young.
Okay.
And just killed it. It was so good. That guy's a good actor. He's like legit.
Yeah. No, he's real good.
Yeah. The minute I see him, I go, oh, I like that guy. Let's do this.
Michael Douglas was great too.
He was good. He's starting to look like if you blow too hard on him, he's going to fly away. But yeah, he's great. I mean, he's just we all get old. He's getting old, real old.
Well, it's like seeing pictures of Gene Hackman now, where you almost don't recognize him as Gene Hackman anymore.
Yeah, it really doesn't look like him. It's crazy.
And
like Hackman in particular, it's like, whoa, those gas station shots they keep showing to him. It's like, what happened?
But I did love and apparently Michael Douglas wanted Hank to die in this. Like he wanted him to have some kind of real. What was the thing I read? He said something about like, you got all these special effects going on. You could have something where like he gets shrunk down and then kind of explodes or whatever, like have some really fantastic and noble death for him, but they didn't do that. But he's got just some great deliveries. Like they go to that cantina bar, right? Like straight out of Star Wars type bar. And Janet gives him the drinks and he drinks the shot and now he can hear everybody, right? They drink the ooze to understand, which is
such a weird thing.
Yeah. Like, you got to have your universal translator moment.
I liked this is pretty good though. Like,
oh yeah,
I guess I liked the juxtaposition that they were going to be tortured or drugged or whatever by this crazy seeming like tribe of weird alien people.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just turns out it was a fancy way of giving everybody the ability to understand everybody. It was pretty wild idea.
It's my second favorite version of that universal translator gag. My favorite being in Farscape, where they have the translator microbes because they got to inject them in the first episode, and everybody's like, "Why weren't you born with those?" Like, that kind of thing. But after he drinks that, and he can start hearing everybody, and then he just turns to the bartender.
I don't know your ways or customs, but I assume that you have a beverage that can get me drunk.
Absolutely, sir.
Priorities. And that's where I would be. Yeah. I would be right there.
That's great. The guy, that weird stuff at the bar, all that.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like expensive budget stuff, but I liked it all.
Oh yeah.
Good. Yeah.
No plus, like the relationship of Hank and Janet is great. And Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer, I think, had great chemistry. Like, because those two characters actually, like, they just love each other and they really care about each other. So their banter feels like that old couple that's reconnecting. So when when she's trying to hotwire the ship as he's flying it with the weird controls and all that.
Yeah.
And I figured you would appreciate this moment too.
I had needs.
Oh my God. Look, I get it. I've got needs too.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Every dad's been there before.
Yep. Oh, and that is the type of thing that will never not be funny, is like a kid being grossed out by their parents having sex. Just
Oh,
will
it's always
be
funny. Yeah, no, it's always it's an easy play. You can get laughs out of that because it's just super relatable.
Mm-hmm.
And also those two. Well, whatever. Michelle Pfeiffer is permanently beautiful. There's nothing you can do to make her look bad. But Michael Douglas, oof, dude.
And apparently the rumor was that they were going to have a cameo of the character that he talks about, Linda, the woman that he was with. And the rumor was that they wanted to cast Jennifer Coolidge to play that character.
Oh, no way. That would have been amazing.
That would have been fantastic.
Yeah. Wonder why not? What happened there? Do you know?
I think they just didn't have time for it. Probably it didn't fit because the whole movie. I mean, that's the thing, right? This movie does not waste any time. It's like 10 minutes and we're in the quantum realm. Like they don't.
That's true. Yeah.
It's a 2-hour movie and we spend like an hour 45 in the quantum realm, which I appreciate. I don't think you need to spend. Not every movie has to be Batman Begins where we take an hour till we see our character in the costume, right? We just.
Oh yeah, no. I sometimes just get to it, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I agree. Like, I don't need to find out. Quit telling me how Batman's parents died, please.
Yeah, I'm done.
I'm done. I got it. We're all good in the alley with the pearls and all the stuff. We don't have to be told ever again.
Just like we don't need Uncle Ben getting shot
No.
in the Spider-Man movie. That was the thing I loved about Homecoming, was they skipped the origin completely.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, you've
good.
seen this already.
Yeah, you might be familiar.
Yeah, you may have heard before. And then this is just such a perfect delivery.
What are you three up to?
Science with ants. Ant science.
Yeah, definitely not up to something shady at all.
No,
not.
No, it's fun. The ants at the end. I know you're supposed to eye roll a bit when they all come over the hill and they're going to help save the day, but I kind of liked that part. I thought that was pretty cool.
So they did give you little hints that the ants were still around, which was nice, with him, like Hank going to his earpiece a couple of times, wondering what that was, and then having the scene. But yeah, their entrance, it should be groan worthy, but it's such a good, like, badass hero entrance. He's got the duster and he's walking in with that and all the ants. Like, it was just great. And this was a cool thing. I was watching there's a YouTube channel called Everything Great About. There's Cinema Wins, because there's Cinema Sins. It's been around for a while, where they
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah.
The shtick with that is they tell you all the problems with a movie. Well, this guy a few years ago made the reverse version of that in Cinema Wins, and he goes through and talks about all this stuff that he really likes in film, and it's a lot of fun. And in this one, he had this great thing where that scene when Hank walks up, there's a quick moment, and I hadn't thought about it until he mentioned it. There's a shot of Kang reacting.
Yeah.
And the look that he gives Hank is this look of like, Kang has dealt with Hank Pym before. Not this Hank Pym, but he knows who Hank Pym is. And because Kang gives a look like, you again?
Yeah, that definitely there was a moment there of like, oh, okay, we're familiar with each other. This is not simple.
I kind of like a
version of him, I guess. Yeah.
I kind of like that little bit of something there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, for a moment that should have been eye roll as all hell, I liked it.
Yeah, I did too. I won't lie. That's the thing about a lot of the stuff in this movie that should have had my eyes rolling. I was actually kind of enjoying myself a little too much. I liked it.
Well, because it was having fun, and then you had a villain who was genuinely menacing and not jokey.
That dude was serious about being a psychopath, man.
He really, really was.
Really, and he sold that thing earlier when he's like her friend, and it's not like he was even tricking her. He was just not telling her everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's interesting. That's more interesting than twisting your mustache and saying, my name is Bill Clay or whatever. You're actually like really leaning into how crazy you are, because you do kind of have this soft side to you. You have this like concerned thing going on, but you're also crazy and you're going to just destroy everything, and you know too much, and it's crazy. I mean, love that.
The best villains are the ones who think they're in the right.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And Kang
Yeah, very,
definitely does.
very much a Thanos kind of vibe to that part of it. The part where he was sure that he was, on the path of whatever galactic
Yep.
righteousness he had taken.
But,
I like a
then he
lot.
gets to have that great moment with Janet, and this was just a perfect exchange.
That's what monsters do.
That's what conquerors do.
Conqueror.
Yeah.
And this is
Yeah.
the conqueror.
And it's
which-
such a stupid term, but he made it cool.
Yeah.
You know,
No, he sells it 100%.
like King the Conqueror is like, okay, what does that even mean? But it
Right.
means a little something now. I like it now.
And it's just, again, it's just a bummer that we're not going to get him. Now, they could have recast him, and I did actually find, because I know you love IMDb recastings or almost cast in this movie.
Yeah, I like
Trivia.
that stuff. Yeah.
So here's some names that were tossed out that could have played Kang. And while it sounds like Marvel's not doing it, they're going to go in a different direction. From what I've heard, John Boyega,
Okay. Interesting. He could do it.
Denzel Washington, I think, is too old.
Too old, but he could. But I understand the pick. I understand
Yes.
why he would be a strong choice.
Now, Training Day era Denzel Washington,
Yeah.
2001, sign me up.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
he's
Jeez
the right.
Louise.
So they also had John David Washington, his son.
Yeah.
Which
I didn't know that was his son. Why did I not know that? I knew he was acting, but I didn't know that was his kid.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's
awesome.
Lakeith Stanfield, I thought was a pretty good one.
Help me. He's the dude from Get Out, the big crazy one. No.
Oh yeah, he's the crazy one in Get Out.
Okay.
And then also
I like him a lot.
The one detective in Knives Out.
Oh yeah. He's great. I hire him for everything. I love that guy.
The other two were Aldous Hodge. Did you see Black Adam?
No, I avoided Black Adam like the plague I was told it was. Is this one of those that I might change my mind if I actually see it?
It was not great, but it has some moments. But Aldous Hodge is Hawkman in that, and
okay.
He was also in. Did you ever watch Leverage? With
crap,
Timothy Hutton. Where they were the group of con artists.
Kind of. Why is that so familiar?
It ran on, I want to say it was like TNT or something.
It was a series, right?
Yeah, it was a series. It ran for a few years in like the mid 2000s.
I sort of vaguely remember this name, and I remember Timothy Hutton somehow being involved, but I don't think I ever actually saw it.
Okay, well, Aldous Hodge was in that as like the tech guy, and I just loved him in there. And then the last one was Yahya Abdul-Mateen, who was Black Manta in the Aquaman movies.
Oh, I like him too.
There's
plenty. Yeah, you could cast the hell out of that role.
He could really replace Majors if they wanted to. But if you're not gonna go with Kang, which I can understand not wanting to, there's plenty of good Marvel villains to still mine from. I think the biggest rumor I've heard is Doctor Doom, and if you're bringing in the Fantastic Four, if you do a good version of Doctor Doom, it can work.
Well, the rumor still is that. Well, not rumor. I think they confirmed it. It's set in the 60s, like an alternate thing, right?
I think
so.
But
then you bring. I mean, this is a big place to do this. You bring their Doctor Doom into the main timeline. Somehow, and the Fantastic Four with them. Like you could go places. You could have that could be the business right there. Because I'm excited that movie's set in the 60s. I think that's the perfect thing to do.
Yeah. See, I love
how they bring it current. I don't know, but
yeah, like I like that idea of not every comic book movie has to be modern day. Like Iron Man set the standard for what we were doing in the MCU, but one of the things I loved about Captain Marvel was taking it back to the 90s and setting her there. And giving us just a little different thing. This is like taking that idea and going even further by setting the Fantastic Four in the 60s makes perfect sense to me. And I think
you do it like the original Captain America is, you get your origin way back in time and then you bring him forward somehow. Probably more with a time space thing, but
sure.
But still, like I'm reasonably sure, I could be wrong, but that feels like Marvel's chance to do a better baton handoff between the phases.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because right now it's just like, well, what are we even doing right now? It feels like we're stalled out a little bit. And it was supposed to be Quantumania that was kind of the connective tissue, but the Kang stuff, if that's all falling apart, there goes your tissue.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this now rests in the hands of. They're not going to give it to Deadpool.
No.
Deadpool will be cool, and there'll be some Deadpool stuff, but it's not like you're going to use that as your giant phase shift to the next phase of Marvel things. So I think Fantastic Four is your place to do it. I don't know what else would be.
It really is,
You know?
and it's such a well-known. It's Marvel's first family, so it's the perfect tool to use for that. So I'm excited for that movie. I can't wait.
I am too. I wanted a proper FF4 since I was a kid, and it's never happened. It's all been bad.
Yeah.
So
well,
let's go.
The Corman one is better not spoken about.
Or maybe the best one just because it's so bad. Like,
but that is the other part of it, is it's kind of also the best one. The two from the mid 2000s, I didn't hate them. They're just kind of there.
Yeah,
like
that's fair.
Michael Chiklis is the Thing. I think was great casting for the time.
Yeah, I liked him in it. Yeah,
I liked it better than the Fan Four Stick. That one just.
Oh yeah.
That was a case of a studio hiring a director and then being like, no, you don't get to make the movie you want at all. Because you hire Josh Trank and then you don't let him do what he does, which was completely changed. Like it wasn't a good mix at all.
No. Yeah. Bad, big mistake there.
But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And in, the case of like losing Edgar Wright during the first Ant-Man could have really tanked it. And I love Edgar Wright. But being able to then get Peyton Reed in here, and he's made 3 solid movies.
Yeah, really I agree. I thought he'd blown the last one, but guess what? I was wrong. It's not that bad. I mean, I don't think I might like it better than. I mean, the first one's fun because it's origin story, and those are always a little bit fun.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I might like this third one better than the first. I haven't seen the second, so I can't rank it. But I think I like this one better. It's been too long, so maybe I need to watch it again. But
it's one of those.
Left a good impression.
The first 2 movies, because of all of the side characters as well, with Michael Pena and doing his recaps and all of that, like that stuff really elevates those. We did get Jimmy Woo, Randall Park's character.
Oh yeah, for like a hot second.
Yeah. But I really enjoy this movie. I think it's a lot of fun.
I don't think this is anywhere near what I was told.
No.
This is a good film. It's not a great film. I'm not saying that. But I don't think this is the pile of garbage people said, and maybe that's not enough for theaters anymore. I don't know. There's a lot of other issues swirling around why Hollywood's having a moment, why Marvel's having a dip. Like, forget about all that just for a second. Just based on pure, like, did I have a good time watching this? I did. I kind of thought I'd get through the first half, and then I'd get tired and I'd have to sleep, and then I'd do it the next day and finish it up before the show here. I sat through the whole thing and watched it till midnight or something, 1 a.m, and I was hooked. Like I was never bored.
Good.
There's a lot worse than that out there that'll make me bored.
There's so much, and that's the worst thing a movie can be, is boring. And I didn't get bored with this one either. So, but I'm glad that you got to watch it. So keep filling in those holes in the Marvel stuff for you.
Yeah, I got to watch. So Guardians 3, I think, is next for me, because I love Guardians and I love 1 and 2, and there's no reason to not see 3. I just didn't get around to it. There wasn't like a motivation there. I got busy, couldn't see it in theaters, haven't had time since then. So I'm going to try to catch that one next. And now I'm even curious just to get Wasp. You know what? I probably should just try for let's catch them all and get everything watched. Like, what's the harm in that?
Yeah. Plus, I mean, Ant-Man and the Wasp has got Walton Goggins in it. I know you love him.
I love him.
And Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Morpheus and I was trying to think of a good Goggins character. All I can think of is this preacher dude and that comedy. I can't think of the name of it.
I can't remember.
Love that either. So much. Have you seen that? If you haven't seen
a clip.
What's it called? Not Golden. What is it? The Righteous Gemstones.
Oh no, I haven't, but I have.
You've got to watch it. So good. Oh, all right. I don't even know what to call that show. That show is a comedy that is mixed with a kind of Breaking Bad level drama. I don't know. That show is unbelievably good. You have to watch it.
I've heard that. You're not the first person.
I can't believe you haven't seen, or no. Hey, you haven't seen?
It's the worst title for a podcast ever. I put punctuation in my podcast title. It was terrible.
Well, whatever. It's easy. Now you got good SEO. If someone searches for it, they know
That's
they're
true.
getting the right one. Yeah.
So speaking of shows, for the like two people that listen to my show that aren't familiar with yours, let's let some people know where like the shows that you're working on are found, because you've been doing a bunch of stuff lately and you've been redoing your website too.
Yeah, a bunch of new stuff going on, the new store, the new site, new, show stuff happening, just trying to kind of, do new things and kick off new stuff all the time. So if you want to keep track of all that, the easiest place is frogpants.com. The very first thing you'll see on the new site is all the podcasts up there in a nice big scrollable marquee thing that you can kind of dig through and see what you like. There's also sublinks to all that and ways to contact me and everything else. So if you like video games, if you like movies, or listen to this show, you probably do. There is something for everybody over there, and I would love it if you'd hop over. So check it out, frogpants.com.
Excellent. And of course, the morning stream Monday through Thursday live, and then as a podcast. I'm on once a month as well, which is super fun.
Love doing that. Super fun. Comes on and stumps us with trivia. I'm currently behind, and I gotta try to reclaim some victory. Yeah, I know, dude. I feel like I suck. That's what I feel like, but it's fun when you're on there. So watch for that coming up next week. I think you're on. Well, this will publish at a different time, so I don't know.
At the time of recording this, it'll be next week. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. All right. Well, there you go. Tune in next week, everyone. Oh, wait, no. Tune in at a time when you actually hear this that is not next week. There you go.
Speaking of, the next episode of this show that you will hear after this one is the kickoff of Cage-a-Palooza 2024, my month-long celebration of all things Nicolas Cage for the month of August. You're going to want to hang out for these because I got some fun movies coming up. I'm not going to tell you what they are yet, but there's some good ones coming. So keep an eye on either my social medias as TV Stravis or tvstravis.com. I'll put some posts up about it there, as I am doing more with that site as well. So you're definitely going to want to check that out. I love Nick Cage, and I love watching. I've watched 20 something of his movies for this show alone now.
Dude, he's a national treasure, that guy.
He really is. Twice.
I mean, he really is. I don't want him to ever go away.
No, because he always brings something. That's the best part about it, is he never phones it in. Even if
even his worst performance is him earnestly doing what he's been told.
Yep. Whatever that is.
Yeah. And there are movies of his that are some of the greatest films ever made. Mm-hmm. And there are movies of his that are some of the worst films ever made.
Yep.
And somehow that's fine with him. Like he doesn't need anything but that. It's all good.
It just works. It's his
I respect it.
Nouveau shamanistic acting, or whatever he calls it. I can't remember.
Yeah. And I still need to watch what's the one with him and Pascal? Forgot the name already.
Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Yeah, I still haven't seen it. You gotta watch that.
Oh, you gotta watch that one. It's so good.
Kim and I have had it on this list forever, and we're just slacking. So we'll get to that one eventually, hopefully soon.
I can't wait to hear what you think of it, because
right.
it's a ton of fun. But that'll be so that's starting off next week is Cage-a-Palooza. So until then, remember to enjoy your movies and let's be excellent to each other.
This changes everything we know about life, evolution, our place in the galaxy. Holy shit. That guy looks like broccoli.
That was a great scene.
Oh, so good.
The broccoli guy was actually kind of cool.